Awesome. Well, good morning and welcome. Got about a minute to go and there's people still arriving, so I just thought I'd show my face so you know it is the real me, Keith Ayers, CEO of Integro Learning Company, and I'll be guiding you through this webinar this morning. And I'll now turn my video off because you don't need to be watching me while I'm doing this. I want you to focus on what's on the PowerPoint and of course what I'm saying. So on the front slide here, you'll see that 5 behaviors is spelt the American way, no U. And you'll see the little registered trademark after 5 behaviors. And in fact, in the left-hand bottom corner, you'll see the newest logo for the 5 behaviors brand. And of course, since it's an American company, an American brand, it's spelt without the U. The word behavior, excuse me, or behaviors will be used many times throughout this next 45 minutes or so. And where possible, I've picked up on spelling it the Australian way or the Queen's English way with the U. But so at times you'll actually see behavior spelled differently on the same slide because one's referring to the brand of the product, and while you don't want us to change it for that, and other times we're just talking about behavior. Okay, so we're past 11 o'clock, and let's start off with our agenda. A very simple agenda. We're first of all going to talk about the changing team landscape and what's actually happening in the world and how does that affect teams. I'm going to share with you some research from Wiley as well that's I think very relevant to that. We're going to look at the 5 behaviors approach overall, and how does that relate to the current team landscape. And the focus of the main part of this session is the 5 behaviors personal development learning experience, right? Yes, there's a profile, but there's also a 4-hour structured workshop to be designed to be experienced in a classroom environment. There is also a 2-hour virtual version of that, which we'll talk about towards the end, and then discuss possible next steps for you as well. So let's dive into the changing team landscape, and I'd like you to think about what effect the changing team landscape is having on your organization and its people. Now, we would have answered this question very differently back in January or February than perhaps how we would be answering it today. And it's certainly impacted us at Integro. We're a small team of 11 people. We've got a nice new office we moved into in June last year here in DY, and we're all working from home and have been for, what, 5-6 weeks now? And the interaction in the team is really interesting doing it virtually. We use Microsoft Teams a lot. We also have Zoom meetings, and we have once a week Zoom drink session, so we can stay in touch with each other socially as well. So it's interesting what impact that's having, and I'm sure you're having the same kind of thing with your teams, okay? But one of the things that came out of Wiley's research was that people are working on more types of teams and on more teams than they used to. I didn't show the other piece of information. 76% of people are working on more than one team, but 73% on more than one type of team. And as you can see, there's still a high percentage of people working on departmental teams, but an increasing number of people are working on project teams, cross-functional teams. Yes, management teams have been around for a long time. And matrix-based organizations, so matrix teams is also a big factor. What that means is if people are working on more than one team, that doing team building with an intact team is not going to meet all of the needs that people have. And so that's where most of our focus is going to be today. All right, so out of the research that Wiley did, they asked 20,000 people whether they believe they are a good team member. And look at that, 99% of people agree that they are a good team member. But when we look at the other research that Wiley has from 13,000 people who took the 5 behaviors team development assessment in 2019, so 13,000 people last year, and how did they assess the teams that they were working on? All right. So firstly, in relation to trust, nearly 4 out of 5 people report that their team members are typically not willing to acknowledge their weaknesses to one another. All right. And so building vulnerability-based trust is very difficult when people will not acknowledge their weaknesses. And oftentimes we get a reaction that says, well, why should I acknowledge my weaknesses? And there's sort of a sense of fear of that, of exposing themselves. But if there's weaknesses on a team and they're not acknowledged, it affects the team's performance, of course. All right. The other thing, one of the other things that came out of that research was the people that completed the assessment last year, is that 55% of teams leave meetings without collective commitment to agreed upon decisions. And so we don't really have a commitment to the decisions that have been made. That's also going to affect accountability. And not surprisingly, 3 in 5 people report that their team members often refuse to take personal responsibility to improve the team's performance in the future. All right. I'm sure that those statistics don't surprise you very much, but I think the reason for that is that there's a critical skill gap between what people think they do and what actually creates great teams. So effective teamwork is a set of behaviors that must be learned. Right? They don't just necessarily come naturally. Most people base their understanding of teamwork on principles they learned in childhood. And we'll see that in a little short video in just a moment as well. And many of these traditional behaviors get in the way of effective teamwork. And so the 5 behaviors approach is to create a set of team skills that actually work, that create high-performing teams. So let's have a look at this little short introductory video. Some of you I know have had experience with the 5 behaviors team development version. This is a new introductory video that was put together for the personal development profile.
Since we were little, we've been thrown on one team after another. Soccer teams, project teams, work teams, you name it. And even though we have lots of experience being on teams, the only advice we've ever been given about how to be a good teammate is to play nice and everything will work out. But what if it doesn't? What if people spend more time politicking and posturing? What if people can't agree on which direction to take, so they go nowhere? What if everyone is just looking out for themselves? Turns out, there's more to good teamwork than just playing nice. That's where the 5 behaviors of a cohesive team comes in. Based on Patrick Lencioni's New York Times best-selling book, The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team, this simple but powerful model consists of 5 behaviors that people can master to become a better teammate and to start building stronger teams. Here's Patrick to explain those behaviors.
There are 5 behaviors that all teams have to master to become true functional teams. The first is trust. Team members have to trust one another, which means they're vulnerable with one another. Vulnerability, which I think is one of the most important characteristics any human being can embrace in life, is nothing but admitting who you are as a person. It means they're capable of being completely honest and human with one another. That's important because it enables them to embrace the second behavior, which is conflict. Yes, conflict. When people are vulnerable and trustworthy with one another, they'll engage in conflict without fear. They'll debate issues, and they'll be totally upfront with one another. As a result of that, they'll be able to embrace the third behavior, which is commitment. They'll commit actively to decisions, and they'll leave the room on the same page, totally committed to follow through on what they've agreed to. That commitment will give them the courage to hold each other accountable, knowing that they're doing nothing but reminding each other about what they've intended to do from the beginning. And that accountability will ensure that they get results, that they're focused on the collective results of the team and not their individual needs.
So it starts with trust, it goes to conflict, commitment, accountability, and ultimately, results. That's it.
Now, ironically, it's not that complicated to build a team. It's pretty simple in theory, but it is hard because it requires a lot of work over time and a lot of courage. But it's worth it because the benefits of a great team are truly extraordinary.
And it all starts with you. Teams are made up of individuals after all, and every individual has a part to play in making them stronger and more cohesive. It's how we get back to those teams that were fun and fulfilling, and we couldn't wait to be a part of.
Okay, so I hope you were able to see that video well. We do know that sometimes bandwidth can be, or internet strength can be a bit of a challenge in the videos playing smoothly, although most people in our experience are getting the audio side of it perfectly well. So I think that the thing that's really great about this model is that it's not just a team effectiveness model. It's a way of operating. It's a way we work together, and the other thing that I really like about it, and I've worked with a lot of teams now with this model, is that people actually want to work this way. Nobody wants to be on a team where there's a lack of trust, where people won't speak up about things that they're disagreeing with, and so on. And so people embrace the model and say, yeah, I really want to make this work in my team. Now, of course, with people working from home remotely at the moment, a lot of people doing that anyway, there's still a need for teamwork. They still need to trust each other. We still need to engage in healthy conflict. So that's where I think this personal development profile is really going to be extremely helpful for organizations to start developing those skills in individuals. Okay, so the 5 Behaviors program was originally developed in partnership with Wiley in 2014. It was to address a critical need, the need for more effective teamwork, right? And so the team development version has been around for 6 years now. Since its introduction, it has shown that it has the power to create high-performing teams, right? Because it provides a common language that everybody embraces, and 88% of the participants who've experienced the 5 Behaviors team development program report that their teams function better than they did before they did the program. So that's a pretty high percentage there. Okay, so the team development solution is unlike any other in that it's a powerful, proven model. Too many P's there. And but the personality insights in action. In the team version, the team actually assesses the team on the 5 behaviors, but their DISC profile is also built into the profile. So each person can see how they have contributed to the team's results, how their behaviors associated with their behavioral style have impacted the team's ability to be vulnerable with each other, to engage in healthy conflict, and so on. Right, and it's a very human approach, which is why people embrace it. All right, so now we also have the personal development version. Right, the team development version is for intact teams. All right, and it does assess the level of dysfunction or cohesiveness in the team. All right, in the personal development version, it's just for an individual, and yes, there's an assessment built into it, and I'll talk about that more in just a little moment. But the whole idea here is to develop a culture of teamwork. If everybody in a department or a team or an organization knows how to operate by the 5 behaviors, then no matter what team they're working on today, they can apply those, and it becomes a part of the organization's culture. Okay, so the team development profile helps people understand themselves and the personalities on their team and how they work together better. It addresses specific team performance issues that are identified through the assessment. They come out of it with a team credo, an agreement about how we're going to operate, and it empowers the intact team to be more effective. All right. The personal development version, it's focused on individuals so that they can apply those skills to all the teams they're working on. Right. It scales the teamwork model to larger groups. So there's, as I mentioned earlier, there's a 4-hour workshop built into a facilitator kit with videos and PowerPoint and everything. And you can actually run that with larger groups of people who don't need to be part of a team or part of a specific team, like we do with the team version. All right. So it empowers a common language across the whole group of people. All right, so let's have a look at the actual profile. And we've sent you a copy of the profile. The one you can see there, Sabina Spencer, is the sample report. All right, and I'm going to show you how this can be used to develop those skills in an individual, even while they're working remotely. All right, so if we have a look at the sequence of the profile itself, right, it starts with introducing the 5 behaviors model, of course, and then provides personalized content to the individual's approach to each behavior. All right. And then going into each of the 5 behaviors, it expands on personalized content so that people can see the relevance to themselves individually. It provides a rationale for building each behavior. So this is something that's not in the team version, but in this version, we'll see the connectors between each behavior and the next one, so that it's a meaningful building block process to go to the next behavior. And then, of course, there needs to be some action. And there's a summary of the learning and an action planning built into the profile itself. So the profile is a profile and a workbook, okay? So let's see how that works. Page 2 in the profile is an introduction. You'll see that it's personalized to the individual. Now, the sample report used in constructing this PowerPoint file used a different profile to Sabina, all right? This one is a fellow called Reed, and I'm assuming it's Reed, who's one of the facilitators in Wiley's education department. And we'll be able to see in just a moment how his behavioral style is personalized into his, and we can into his profile, and we can also figure out what his profile is likely to be. Okay, so I'll talk about the actual profile itself. And secondly, on page 2, of course, we're introducing the 5 behaviors model and going through that a little more thoroughly. All right. Then we get to page 3, and this is where it gets more personal. All right. So you can see here we have a paragraph about each of the 5 behaviors. And there's, as we would with any other profile, when we're taking people through it, we would ask them to personalize it, tick the things that are true for you, put a cross against something that you don't think fits for you, put a question mark on anything you're not sure about or that might surprise you, okay? And just have a closer look at one of those behaviors, in this case, conflict, right? Excuse me. And you can see there by the description, given your desire to uncover high quality solutions, you're probably comfortable with debating issues and ideas in a calm and rational manner. Sorry. This is starting to sound like a C style, isn't it? You likely bring a focus on logic and objectivity to the discussion, right? Along with a skeptical eye and willingness to challenge ideas that seem irrational or unsound. If the debate becomes emotional or heated, however, you may prefer to withdraw to avoid the tension, right? So this is where the person's DISC style is being brought into it. Now, the only assessment behind this profile is the adaptive testing everything DISC assessment, All right, the same one you would take if you were taking the workplace profile or the management profile, except for the priority questions. You would just have all the base questions. If you've been through certification recently, we refer to those as the big bucket questions that determine where your dot falls in the disk map. However, in this profile, we're not showing people where their dot falls. We're not even showing them a disk map. We're not even referring to disk in the profile itself. Now, there's a very good reason for that. The whole focus of this profile is to build more effective team members, to help them develop the skills to be a more effective team member. The personalization, as you'll see as we go through, helps them understand themselves in relation to the 5 behaviors very well. And of course, if they know what their DISC style is, they'll be able to interpret that. But let's say you're dealing with a team that has not done DISC, right? And they've done Myers-Briggs, for example. Okay, as they're reading this interpretation, they're going to be able to see things that come out of their Myers-Briggs profile that would be why they tend to do this. All right. Now, I'm not familiar enough with Myers-Briggs to be able to give you an example of that, but I do know that the purpose of it is that we can take this to any team regardless of whether they've done DISC or not, so that an organization can get everyone operating on the same team behaviors regardless of what other assessments that they've done. Okay, so that's the personalized interpretation there. All right, and let's dive into the first behavior, which is trust. All right, and remember we talked about vulnerability-based trust. Pat talked about it on that little video, and so when we go into the actual profile and the first page in trust, there's an introduction, of course, and an explanation of why that's important and why vulnerability is important. And then halfway down the page, you'll see what does it look like to have trust on a team. All right. Now, in the 5 behaviors team development profile, there are 4 items that measure the degree of vulnerability that currently exists in the team. Now, these are not exactly the same 4 things that are measured in the team version, but they're very similar. Right? Being unguarded and genuine, apologizing, being open about weaknesses, asking for help, etc. So that's important because we need to be pretty clear about what we mean by being vulnerable. If we're going to ask team members to be vulnerable, we need to know what that looks like on a team. All right, and what would happen if people didn't ask for help, if people were not open about weaknesses or mistakes that they'd made, and that's when they could start to see the impact it's going to have on the team. You'll also see at the bottom of the page here that there's a personalized interpretation for read there, right? Because you tend to be reserved and independent, etc. Okay, so for each of the 5 behaviors, it's being personalized for him. Okay, so the second page in the trust module gets really interesting because this is where we're now looking at what does it actually mean to be vulnerable, and how does that impact on me? And we can see here for Reed what may hold him back from being vulnerable. Things like not wanting to feel exposed, not wanting to appear incompetent. All right, now the C style or a CD style person would be very concerned about that because competence is so important to them. Likewise, the fear of looking foolish for maybe making a mistake or admitting a mistake, or the fear of criticism. Okay, so these things that may hold you back are going to be different for each person's profile. Now, just underneath that pop-up little screenshot there, you'll see other things that, and I'll just back up a bit here, why others may hold back. And you can see that what may hold others back is very different to what may hold Reed back. Okay, so just to have a bit of fun, I thought we'd do a little poll here. Here are some examples of things that may hold people back and that are different. Like the fear of not wanting to be a burden versus a fear of loss of control are two very different things, aren't they? So Candace, who's working with me today, is just put up a poll for you. Which of those could hold you back from being vulnerable? Let's see the differences we've got here in this group on the webinar. We've got a fairly even distribution so far. Not wanting to appear incompetent is taking the lead. Okay. All right, let's close it off there, Candace, and show you the results. So not wanting to appear incompetent, we got 52% of people who chose that one. Okay, so there's no right or wrong answer here, of course. We're just looking at the different kind of things that would make people hold back from being vulnerable with each other. Okay, so one of the, I've got an example of an activity from the facilitator kit coming up, and then obviously if it's a classroom session, you get people into small groups to discuss these things, and if you're doing it virtually, we could do breakout rooms and have people go off into smaller groups and discuss things and come back and report back. But here's an example of one of the scenarios from the facilitator kit. So while using one of your team's software platforms, accidentally delete a large block of data. So working on your own, you manage to restore it. You're about 90% confident there'll be no adverse effects from this. So what do you do next? All right. Do you keep it to yourself? Do you wait to see if anyone comes across it? And if they do, then explain what happened? Or do you proactively notify your teammates of the situation? All right. And which would you do? Why don't you just pop into the chat box and just type in A, B, or C. What would you be tempted to do? And it might be different what you were tempted to do compared to what you would actually do. Right? You're all obviously very good team members. All right. Okay. The vulnerable thing to do would be C. All right. To admit I made a mistake and I've rectified it to the best of my ability, but let's just keep our eyes open. All right. So, and you may have been tempted to do B or A, based on your behavioral style too. That might be different as to how you would approach that. But being vulnerable with the team, it's not an easy word to say in a hurry, would be C. Okay, thanks for participating in that. We've got a couple more polls coming up a little bit later. Well, that wasn't a poll, but we've got some polls coming up again. Okay, so let's go to the last section in trust, is action planning. And this applies to all of the 5 behaviors. So the program is going to come up with 3 goals for this participant, in this case for Reed. All right. So, and these are based on his style and how he's responded to the DISC assessment. All right. And what he would be most likely needing to do to be more effective at being vulnerable. Okay. So, Reed is going to zoom in on be willing to let your guard down. All right. So vulnerability does not come easy to the C style. Okay. And then at the bottom of the page there, you'll see put it into practice. And so he would then use that space to describe ways in which he can apply his chosen habit or goal on the teams that he works with. Okay. And what benefits would you get from doing that, or what the benefits would the team get from doing that? Okay. So that takes us on to conflict. All right. And I always start off the conflict module by asking the question, what does conflict mean to you? And these are the kinds of responses that we get. Okay, um, not many people come up with positive words when thinking about conflict, because for a lot of people, conflict is a negative thing. And so it's obviously important to discuss that, to get that out, and to also emphasize that in this particular model, the 5 behaviors model, we're talking about productive or healthy conflict. Okay, so then we go to the first page in the conflict module in the profile, and you'll see that there's a transition here. All right, so it's saying connecting trust and conflict. And then in the middle of the page there, when there is trust, conflict becomes nothing but the pursuit of truth, an attempt to find the best possible answer. All right, and at the bottom of this page there, you can see that again we have a personalized interpretation for Reed, okay, and how it's going to benefit him to become more effective in this conflict area. Okay, so again, the second page in this section on conflict, halfway down the page, you'll see what does it look like to have productive conflict on a team. We've got to be really clear about what we mean. And then Reed has his personalized interpretation at the bottom. What do you contribute to productive conflict based on your style? And what are you likely to find stressful around dealing in getting involved in productive conflict? Okay. Now we've got a interesting little exercise here. This is an exercise that would be actually done as a participative exercise, a breakout room or discussion in a workshop. And you'll see here on this page in the profile that there are 2 continua. Are you a spirited debater or a calm debater? And then secondly, are you receptive or are you steadfast? So we're on page 9 in the profile if you've got that handy. All right. And the program has calculated where Reed is likely to be based on his behavioral style and based on how he's actually answered questions in the assessment that score to these continua. All right. So he's more towards the calm end, but pretty close to the middle. And he's very strongly steadfast, holds firm to his own opinions. Okay. And so the activity actually asks the questions, how do you show disagreement based on where you sit on this continua? So if you're a spirited debater, you're likely to be quite vocal and expressive and have strong opinions during any debate that you're involved in. Whereas obviously if you're a more calm debater, more measured, etc. Okay, and so we would actually have people getting into a debate about that. All right, and then we would also have a discussion about how does your tendency to be receptive or steadfast impact on your the way you debate issues, the way you engage when there's any heated discussion going on. All right, so we've decided to do a poll here and just get a sense of the different responses of people in this group. So are you more a spirited debater or a calm debater? Let's see what we've got here. It's pretty even, isn't it? Yeah, so we got 46% are more spirited, 54% are more calm. All right, let's go to the second poll, which is are you more receptive or are you more steadfast? This is interesting. Yeah, so very high percentage of you are more receptive. I imagine we've probably got a lot of people on this call who are facilitators. And obviously, if you're facilitating a group through some discussion, you do need to be very receptive. But some of you obviously know yourself as, tend to be more steadfast. And if we looked at this in relation to DISC, you would say that probably being more steadfast would be on the DC side of the map, and being more receptive would be on the IS side of the map. And maybe that has something to do with the profiles of the group who are on the call. Okay. All right. So thanks for doing that. Okay. I haven't got any other slides for the module on conflict, but we've seen what's in the profile. And if you have got your profile open, if you just look at page 10, you'll see again, we wrap up the conflict module by people identifying a goal as to what they want to achieve. Okay. And so we go on to commitment. And again, on page 11, you'll see that there's a transition from conflict to commitment. All right. So I'm just going to skip over that, and I'm going to see what's actually there for Reid for his interpretation. Halfway down the page again, we see what does it look like to have commitment on a team. There's two aspects to commitment. Number one is clarity, and secondly, there's buy-in. All right. So as it says on the page there, clarity means knowing exactly what you're committing to, making sure everybody's on the same page. And buy-in is about making sure your ideas and concerns are heard, and then getting behind the decision that's made. So clarity and buy-in. Obviously, if you haven't got clarity, you can't commit because you don't know what you're committing to. And if you don't buy into the decision, then you don't commit. And so we need both, obviously. The next section of the profile actually looks at what keeps you from seeking clarity and what might make it hard for you to buy in. And again, this is where Reid's personalized interpretation is coming in. So as we go through each of these parts and the activities built around this, you can see that each team member is having to think about, what do I need to do to be more vulnerable, to engage in more conflict, to make sure I am clear and that I do buy into decisions that are being made. So it's a very personal experience for them. All right. So there's an exercise we do in this module called Go Get It or Get Over It. All right. And there's a series of situations come up, and the participants need to decide, is this a situation where I need to go get it? That is because I don't have the clarity. Or is it a situation where I need to get over it because the team has made the decision, we've had clarity, we've made the decision, I just don't agree with it. So we need to get over it. So again, helping participants, team members, understand that when they're working on a team, if they don't understand, if they're not clear, go get it, ask more information. If a decision's been made, get over it, support the decision. Okay, it's a very interesting activity in the actual program itself. All right, so then we go to accountability, and again, we have some continua here, and excuse me. You'll see here we've got two continua again, and again, Reid has been plotted as he's someone who's more likely to address problems rather than keep the peace. Okay, and if someone's that keeps the peace end, which I tend to be as an SI style, I need to be more willing to address problems and move to the other end of the scale if I'm going to be effective at holding others accountable. Because accountability in the 5 behaviors model is about team members holding each other accountable. All right, and the context there is really important. You know, if we've been vulnerable with each other and we've all had a chance to speak up and we've engaged in debate about the issues and the ideas, and we've had some really healthy conflict, and then we've made a decision, which we're very clear about, and we've agreed to buy into that decision and support that decision, and now we all go back to work and get on with it, right? And then someone doesn't do what they said they would do, right? It only makes sense that they would be held accountable by the person who can see that they haven't done what they needed to do, not just the boss. Okay, so in the context of the 5 behaviors, peer-to-peer accountability makes a whole lot of sense. So we're going to see an example of that, and we've got some videos. There's actually, I think, 3 videos in the series in the kit, but I'm just going to show you a couple. And the first one is showing the team having a meeting. It's a fairly short meeting. But I want you to have a look, well, while you're watching this, think about what are the commitments that were made, okay?
Okay, I got an update from IT, and obviously the software rollout is still a few months away, but it sounds like they're going to let users build their own avatars.
Clients will love that.
Yeah, they will. But is this for sure going to happen?
It sounds like they're going to push for it, but no, I don't think it's for sure yet, so probably shouldn't tell clients, right?
Yeah, let's keep this quiet until it's finalized.
That works for me.
Okay, well, that's all I've got.
I got nothing.
Actually, James, when do you think you'll be done with the client survey?
I need like a week, so...
It'll be done before the quarterly meeting, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, because I'll need about a week to create the support materials. Does that give you enough time, though?
Yeah, I think so. How's next Friday sound?
That's perfect. Because then as soon as I get it, I'll throw those slides together for the meeting.
Okay, awesome.
Great.
Okay, so they made a commitment not to say anything to their clients about the possibility of being able to develop their own avatars, right? And also James made a commitment that he would have information to them by Friday. Okay, we're not going to see any more about that commitment with James because that's another video, but we are going to see the follow-up to that meeting and just see what happened.
Yeah, no problem. As always, we do appreciate your business. Uh-huh. Yeah, we're still just a few months away from the upgrade. Well, strictly speaking, I'm not supposed to say anything, but they're thinking about giving users the ability to create avatars.
What the?
Uh-huh. Exactly. You can go in and create the little person that looks like you.
Seriously? We just agreed.
Yeah, and it'll be a lot more fun for the users, too. I mean, it's not definite, but I'm pretty sure it's going to happen.
We weren't supposed to say anything.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, that's a lot to look forward to. All right, Dave. I'll talk to you soon. Take care.
Ugh, I need to talk to Sun-Mi, don't I? I'm not her boss. She's not gonna listen to me. And what if she gets mad at me? This is going to be super awkward.
Hey, Sun-Mi.
Hey.
Do you mind if I talk to you for a minute?
Sure. What's up?
Who was that on the phone?
Oh, Dave from KRT. He is such a great guy.
Yeah, he is. But, were you telling him about the avatars and the upgrade?
I may have hinted at it.
It's just, we don't know if it's gonna happen.
Right, I told him that.
Yeah, and that's why we decided not to say anything. We agreed to it.
Yeah, but it's Dave.
I don't know. I mean, I know you want to keep clients happy. We all do.
Yeah, but it's not just that. I think the avatars are going to be really cool. We should get some buzz going.
But we don't want any buzz. Not yet.
Well, see, I disagree, because I think we always wait until the last minute to tell people about these things, and it costs us pre-orders.
But then maybe you should have said something in the meeting.
I didn't think about it at the time, and now people are asking me all these questions.
Okay, well, let's talk about it then. But I do think we all have to decide on this together.
Okay, that's fair. How about if I set up a meeting to talk about it, and until then, I won't say anything to anybody else?
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, of
I
course.
really appreciate that.
No, it's totally cool.
Okay.
Okay, see you
Have a
later.
good one.
Bye.
Okay, so what would you have done? And the thing I really like about that little interaction, and then there's another one in another video with James as well, is it actually shows how you can hold a peer accountable without it becoming conflict, right? And that there's a way you can do it, and that people can learn to do that more effectively. All right, so obviously there's activities in the program for team members to identify situations where they could use this peer-to-peer accountability more effectively and how they could go about doing that, okay? That's the behavior that most teams struggle with the most, is holding each other accountable. And so learning how to do that obviously is critical. Okay, so then on to the final behavior, which is results. And again, the first page is the connection between accountability and results, and then this is the second page. So the connection is on page 19. We're now on page 20 in the profile, okay? And again, halfway down the page, it clarifies that we're actually talking about collective results, collective success, valuing collective success more than individual achievement, okay? So we're putting the team first. And then at the bottom of the page, we can see Reed's motivators. What would motivate him to focus on results, okay? And collective results. And then what would be more stressful for him. Okay, now we take those motivators and expand on that, and that's the next page in the profile, page 21. Using your motivators to focus on results, and then there's activities in the profile, and on page 22 in the profile, the choice of 3 goals, like we had in every other section of the profile, and for Reed to focus on one of those goals to develop good results habits and put it into practice with some action planning. And then the last page in the profile summarizes everything and brings it all together. All right, so we've got a summary of each of the 5 behaviors for Reed. You might excel at these things and you might struggle with these things. So given what you've learned today, choose a behavior to focus on first, okay? And oops. So I'll just zoom in on that a little bit so you can see it more clearly. Choose a behavior. Which one of the 5 behaviors do you want to focus on first? Turn to the how-to page and refer to your notes as to how you're going to be better at that. And then considering what you excel at and struggle with above, what are you going to do tomorrow? What are you going to do in the next 2 weeks? What are you going to do in the next month to follow up on this? Okay, so just to summarize, okay, there are 2 solutions for 5 behaviors, all right? The team personal development version is developing team skills in individuals. And as you can see, these skills are equally as important now while people are working remotely. Because we're all having team meetings and we're doing them virtually in so many cases. And developing these habits during this time will certainly help the team stay together and help them when they can actually physically get back together again. Okay. In the team development version, it's for an intact team. It identifies and measures the level of dysfunction in the team, and it's focused on not just senior leadership, but mostly it's senior leadership or teams where it's critical for them to work together. Okay, so next steps, if you or someone you know would like to experience the 5 behaviors personal development profile and a 2-hour workshop, around that profile, the virtual workshop that Wiley have created, that we will be facilitating 2 of these sessions in May from 2 to 4 p.m. on Thursday the 21st of May and Friday the 22nd of May. the two workshops, and they're the same workshop, by the way. It's not a total of 4 hours. The price is $250 per person, including the profile and takeaway action plan, and we will also give you access to the facilitator's guide for the 2-hour virtual workshop that Wiley have created for facilitating a debrief of this profile, okay? And Wiley have developed a series of virtual workshops, and I think there's more to come. So far, we've got a 2-hour workshop on the workplace profile and the personal development profile we've just been through, and also the Everything Disc Agile EQ profile. And I think the productive conflict, Everything Disc productive conflict profile is to come. Okay, so open to any questions. If you could type your questions in the chat box, if you haven't already. Dave, my email is keith@integro.com.au. All of us at Integro's first name at integro.com.au. And if you could just pop me an email and we'll arrange to get together. And Wayne has asked, will this be available for download? We will be sending everybody a recording so that you can watch it again to catch anything that you missed or would like to delve into a little bit more. Okay, can I re-explain the team approach, but for senior leaders? The 5 behaviors team development version is for intact teams. A team that all report to the same leader, and the team is interdependent, and they have common goals, common purpose, and they need to work together cohesively. All right, and so most of the 5 behaviors team development versions we've done have been with senior teams, not necessarily the senior executive team, although there's been plenty of those, but people at a more senior level who are a group of managers working together. Now, it doesn't have to be that way, and we have got organizations that have put the 5 behaviors team version through all of the teams in their organization. And yes, you can get a copy of the slides. We've got a question that I mentioned that the PD profile can be used regardless of whether the individual has done DISC. And they actually have to do the DISC questionnaire to get their personal development profile, but it's not referred to as the DISC questionnaire. It's just they're sent a link like you would for any other profile to say that you've been signed up to do the 5 behaviors personal development profile. Click on this link to take the assessment. And they're actually taking the DISC assessment, but it's not highlighted to them that they are, and therefore there's no expectation that they will find out where their dot sits. Okay. The other thing that's important to understand for those of you that are familiar with DISC and use DISC a lot and have Epic accounts is that we can't use existing data for this profile. Even though it's the same DISC questionnaire as you would have for workplace, we can't take their workplace profile answers and put it into here. Now, theoretically we could, but technically Wiley decided not to do that. And the reason is you could actually generate a 5 behaviors personal development profile for someone without asking them. if they want to do it, right, by just taking their disc questions from a previous profile. And so the person would turn up at a workshop and say, well, where did you get this information from about me? All right. So they need to have filled out a profile that's relevant to the session that they're going to. And that's why there's no existing data. Okay. We have yeah, Matt, you're exactly right. Just to clarify, participants would undertake the profile before attending. The profile is based in everything DISC, but they don't actually know that, and then they attend the workshop. That's correct. Yes. Oh, thanks, Matt. Okay. All right. Doesn't look like there are any other questions. If there are, you can contact support@integro.com.au. You can contact me. I encourage you to use support rather than Keith, unless you want to specifically speak to me, simply because people make sure that you get a response that way, and my inbox gets very, very full. So thanks very much for joining us today, and I hope this has been of value to you. Hope to see you on the workshops, and if you've got any questions, please contact support@integro.com.au, or you can actually call 1-800-222-902. Thank you.